Yes. Good morning, students. So let's continue with our topic, that is sexual reproduction. In last class, we discussed about the budding. We talked about external budding and internal budding, exogenous budding and endogenous budding, and we have learned the important example of internal budding, that is spongilla, and the bud which is found inside the body cavity of the spongilla are known as gamules. Next method of asexual reproduction is regeneration. So briefly we can discuss about the regeneration. Basically, regeneration is not a method of reproduction. Regeneration is observed in all the plants, and this is, in some extent, it is observed in the higher animals also. It is more regeneration is seen in the lower invertebrates, but some extent of regeneration seen in the higher organisms also, like regeneration of hairs in our body, regeneration of nails, regeneration of some part of the tissues where we see the healing of wound and all. So regeneration is not basically method of reproduction, but in some lower invertebrates like planaria, like member of platyhelminthes, like member of Coelentera, like Hydra, regeneration can act as the method of reproduction. So before we look into the example, we should try to define it. So regeneration is generally defined as regaining or repairing of damaged or lost part. Regenerate means to regain or to repair, to retain damaged or lost part. So we can define regeneration as regaining or repair of, this is a simple definition, damaged or lost part. So we can say regeneration ability is found in almost all organisms, but in some organisms regeneration ability is more and in some organisms regeneration ability is less. That depends on their body organization. Simple the body organization, more the regeneration ability. Complex the body organization, higher the animals, regeneration ability is less. So that we have to keep in mind. So regaining or repairing or repair of damaged or lost part is called regeneration. In simple word we can say this is regaining and repairing of lost part can be known as the regeneration. So we can take some typical example. Regeneration is generally seen in Hydra. If Hydra loses its any part, Hydra, Planaria, etc. So there are many organisms which are lower invertebrates. There we can see the process of regeneration. So here we have to relate this regeneration with the reproduction, because we are talking about asexual reproduction. So if by the broken part complete body of organism develop, whole body of organism develop, then it can be considered as a method of reproduction. So from broken part or fragment whole animal body develop, then only it can be considered as method of reproduction. Means, like we take example of planaria, accidentally body of planaria break into pieces and each part of planaria develop into an whole organism, then we can consider this as the regeneration, as the method of reproduction, and this method is called, this phenomenon is called morpholexis. this phenomenon, there are two type of regeneration is there: morpholepsis and epimorphosis. Morpholepsis and epimorphosis. So morpholepsis is development of whole organism. Morpholepsis is development of whole organism from broken part. Okay, so let's try to understand first the morpholepsis. Like we have, all of you have seen the diagram of planaria. Planaria is a member of Platyhelminthes. This is the example, which is freshwater flatworm, or this is free living Platyhelminth. So this already know. This is a free living Platyhelminth. Okay, its body. If its body break accidentally, it may be by the predator, into fragments, and now you see here, like this is the first fragment, then here we have this is second fragment, and this is last fragment. So here we have seen the three fragments. It break accidentally or due to any reason, it break into three fragments, and this each of the fragment. Okay, so how this fragment will develop into an whole organism? When here there will be repeated cell division, right? Which cell will undergo the division? These cells are called stem cells. These are already differentiated cells. These cells will de-differentiate. So you can recall the term de-differentiation. These cells are already differentiated cells, and these cells will undergo the de-differentiation. De-differentiation means again they will start division, again they will undergo the differentiation, and they will develop or they will grow into a lost part. So whatever lost part is there, that lost part will be gained. So let's try to understand it. So here we draw the first part. This is the first part. Okay, fragment. Rest of the part is eaten by a predator, or this is broken by any reason. Now please keep in mind, here the cells are present. These cells are generally it is known as stem cells, or these are typical representative cells. These are regenerative cells, right? These can be considered as regenerative cells. Regenerative cells are present. So please keep in mind, these regenerative cells will de-differentiate, and they will slowly and gradually they will divide. So there will be division, and this portion which is lost, this planaria body start regaining, and slowly and gradually it will regain the whole lost part. So what is happening here? Here cell division that lead to growth, growth lead to, after growth there is differentiation, and there is complete development of an organism. So how you can see here, the lost part has regained, and due to regaining of lost part, this particular fragment of planaria develop into a whole organism. Now this phenomenon we can consider as the morpholepsis. This is one of the regaining the lost part, and that lead to development of whole organism is known as the morpholepsis, and morpholepsis is a type of regeneration. Similarly, this part will also, like this is the middle part. All of you can see here. This is middle part, right? So from here, the lost part will be regained. Slowly and gradually, the lost part will be regained, and here and downward also lost part will be regained, and that will develop into a new planaria. Similarly, the third part also will regain the lost part regenerate the lost part and it will develop into a new organism. So this is the way how the planaria regain its lost part and develop into a new organism. So this is very interesting to note here. And when organism is able to develop into a whole organism by regaining the lost part, how the lost part is regained, that is very clear. These regenerative cells present here undergo dedifferentiation. These stem cells undergo dedifferentiation and they regain the whole body part which has been lost and develop into a new organism. This phenomenon technically known as morpholexis, and this is a type of regeneration. Basically, this is the only asexual way how the organism reproduce. Another type of regeneration where there is no development of whole body, only the lost part is restored. When only lost part is restored, then it cannot be called. Okay, this is generally seen in the higher organism that cannot be considered as the method of asexual reproduction. This is called epimorphosis. So another type morpholexis, and another word we can use, that is the epi. This is another type of regeneration, epimorphosis. Okay, restoring lost part. Restoring lost part means here lost tissue or some cells, right? But whole organism will not develop. This kind of things are seen in the starfish, or this kind of thing can be seen in the some of the reptiles like lizard. So please keep in mind, this is very important to note here. Epimorphosis or simply repairing or restoring the lost tissue, lost organ or lost cells, that is called epimorphosis. But if whole organism develop from the broken part, then it is known as morpholexis. This is more important. And morpholexis is the way of regeneration by which asexual reproduction takes place. Now you will ask that how it is different from fragmentation. In fragmentation we have seen, fragmentation generally takes place in the lower plants like algae. We took example of Spirogyra. In Spirogyra, any broken piece can develop into a new organism, new filament of the Spirogyra. Similarly, in case of fungus, any piece of hyphae, any fragment of hyphae develop into a new hyphae or mycelium, that is fragmentation. But here, any piece of organism, any fragment of organism will not develop into a new organism. Fragment which have the embryonic cells, the typical cells or regenerative cells, which are called stem cells, certain cells should be present. Then only that fragment will regain the lost part and develop into whole organism. So remember it, in case of fragmentation, any part or any piece can develop into and have ability to develop into a new organism. But here, in case of regeneration, there must be presence of some typical cells. The group of cell, the representative cell, all these cells are the stem cells, and these cells can undergo dedifferentiation to develop into a new organism. So this is the basic difference between fragmentation and regeneration. So example, the most classical examples are Hydra and Planaria. Beside that, regeneration seen in all lower invertebrates, but it is not a method of reproduction. This is commonly method of reproduction in the member of coelentrates and some of the member of Platyhelminthes. So this is all about regeneration. Now let's take another method of asexual reproduction, that is spore formation. Spore formation is a common way of reproduction seen in almost all lower plants like in algae, in the bryophytes, Even we see spore formation in the pteridophytes. Spore formation is very common in fungus. Most of the fungus reproduce by spore formation. This spore may be asexual spore or sexual spores. But first we should try to understand what are the spores. So let's write spore formation. Spore formation. So all of you know spore formation is very common. The example you already know, that is the rhizopus or bread mold. And commonly we see on any piece of bread or on any dead and decaying material, fungus grow and then develop fine microscopic propagules, and these propagules germinate and develop into new filament or new hyphae of the fungus. So please keep in mind, spores are microscopic. So we can define them as the spores are microscopic propagules. Propagule, all of you know, any body unit that can grow, develop into a new organism. These are called propagules. So let's try to understand what are the spores. So spores we can define as these are microscopic and generally they are single cell. Please keep in mind, they are single cell. Okay, microscopic, single cell, propagules which germinate. Whenever we say asexual spores, they directly germinate to give rise new organism. So simply we can say spores are microscopic single celled propagules. So this at least we have to remember to define the spores. Spores are microscopic single celled propagules generally found in lower plants. Algae generally produce the spores. These spores may be motile, non-motile. But one more thing we have to keep in mind, when we say single celled and the spores are generally having naked cytoplasm. Here naked cytoplasm means generally cell wall absent. Please keep in mind, cell wall not present. Generally, you know, in algae cell wall is present, in fungus cell wall is present, but generally in the spore cell wall is not present. Okay, so let's take one example to understand spore formation. So one example already we know, that is spore formation in rhizopus, that is bread mold. In this, the spore formation takes place on the filaments, the special filament or hyphae which grow vertically, and these filaments are known as sporangiopore. On the sporangiopore there is presence of a body where the spore formation takes place. That body is known as sporangium. So let's recap first, then we will go into another example. Like this is, here we have piece of bread. On this is the mycelium. Okay, this is rhizopus. Some of the special hyphae will grow vertically. Okay, on these hyphae there will be formation of knob-like structure, and here in this knob-like structure there will be development of these microscopic propagules. There will be formation of microscopic propagules, and these microscopic propagules, please keep in mind, considered as spores. So here these are spores. This structure which bear the spore is known as sporangium. That is only kind of revision that you can recall the things, and this filament which bear the sporangium is known as sporangiophore. That is sporangiophore. Okay, the stalk is called sporangiophore. The structure which enclose the spores is known as sporangium. This is a very common word we have to remember. And inside these microscopic propagules are present. These microscopic bodies or very small bodies are called spores. Now what happened? This sporadium burst, spore release. These spores can immediately germinate in the favorable environment and they can give rise the new hyphae. So this is how the spore formation takes place in case of Rhizopus. This is the fungus. Okay. Similarly, spore formation is seen in algae also. So let's look into some other examples of spore formation. Spore may be of different type. Spore may be formed inside an enclosed body. When spores are formed inside an enclosed body, these are called endogenous spores. So try to understand these spores are endogenous spores. When spores are formed inside an enclosed body, then spores are called endogenous spores. And sometimes spores are exposed to the environment, then these are called exogenous spores. So let's take one example of endogenous spores. This is common, it is there in our syllabus, so we have to look into the spores, that is zoospores. Zoospore term itself, these spores are motile, flagellated. Zoospores. Zoo means motile. Motile and flagellated spores. Okay. These are found in algae, particularly green algae. Example we can take, that is, this example is there in our book also, so we have to learn it. Chlamydomonas. This is found in Chlamydomonas. All of you know the diagram of Chlamydomonas. So I am not going into detail of the structure of Chlamydomonas. So this is the Chlamydomonas and that is undergoing the zoospore formation. So cytoplasm will divide and here there will be formation of large number of zoospores. Why these are called zoospores? Because they bear flagella. Because they bear the flagella. Keep in mind, these all are the zoospores. Right? When they get mature, this mother cell or parent cell burst and all these zoospores come out from the body. This is very interesting to note here. Now where the Chlamydomonas is present, Chlamydomonas are found in the fresh water. So these zoospores help in dispersal. So with the water current they disperse. They are motile. You can see motile in the water with the help of flagella. Then these are zoospores. So these zoospores help in, they are motile, so help in dispersal. They disperse. This is very important. This Chlamydomonas is found in the aquatic habitat. And once they disperse, what happens? They germinate. Germinate means they grow. They grow directly into a new organism. So please keep in mind one type of spore. And example, these are also found in Erythrix, Cladophora, and some other algae. Zoospores are also found in fungi. But example here we will remember is Chlamydomonas. This is very important. Another type of spore. Here we say they are motile spore. Non-motile spores are of different type, like Chlamydospores. So it is not, we will not go into more detail of Chlamydospores, but still you can remember Chlamydospores. These spores are generally formed in unfavorable conditions. Please remember, unfavorable conditions. These spores are generally formed in unfavorable conditions. And these are known as resting spores. Remember it? These are known as resting spores. Now why we say these are resting spores? Because to overcome the unfavorable condition, they remain dormant for the longer duration. These Chlamydospores, please keep in mind, have thick wall. They are always, keep in mind, have thick cell wall. This is very important point to note here. They have thick cell wall. They are having thick cell wall, so they remain protected. Similarly, not only they have thick cell wall, they have stored food also. Okay, so another type of spore you can remember, chlamydospores. They are different from zoospore. They are non-motile. They have thick cell wall. They are resting spores. Thick cell wall. Resting spore means they are generally formed in unfavorable condition that help them to overcome the hostile stage or extreme environment. Okay, so these are non-motile spores. Similarly, there may be some other type of spore like oospores, actinospores, and so on. But you keep in mind about the zoospore, chlamydospores. Let's talk about another type of these spores. Are, keep in mind, they are endogenous. Endogenous spores. Endogenous spore means found inside sporangium. The body is called sporangium. So like zoospores are found inside zoosporangium. Accordingly, we can give the name. Zoospores are found inside the zoosporangium. Right? Found inside a body. That's why these are called. They are covered. That's why these are called endogenous spores. Right? These bodies are called sporangium. And the structure which bear the sporangium is known as the sporangiophore. So body inside which zoospore develop zoosporangium. So this body can be considered as the zoosporangium. Okay, and if in case of fungus it is filament there, then it is, please remember, these are called sporangiophore. The stock is called sporangiophore. Let's talk about the exospores in the spore formation, which is there in our syllabus. With the example we have to remember. So particularly we will talk about conidia. Conidia what we have learned in class 11th also. Conidia are formed in fungus. Particular example you can recall, that example is Penicillium, Aspergillus, and these are some examples where we say spores are directly exposed. When spores are directly exposed and produced on the tip of the hyphae, these tips may be branched or unbranched. Generally, in case of Penicillium and in case of Aspergillus, they are branched hyphae. These are the specialized hyphae, grow vertically, and at the tip they bear the fine spores. And these spores directly come away. They, with the help of air, with the help of wind, they disperse, and on the favorable surface they immediately germinate. So please keep in mind. So next type of spores you can say conidia. Conidia are what kind of spore? They are exogenous spore. These are exogenous spores. Means they are exposed. So let's see. Conidia. Conidia generally seen in the fungus. Like example we can take Aspergillus, Penicillium. Penicillium is the more important example. These all are the fungus. Now you see how the conidia are formed. As I mentioned, these are exogenously produced. Exogenously means not enveloped, not covered inside the sporangium. They are exposed to the environment. So like here we see this is the hyphae. Okay. So these are the specialized hyphae. These may be branched or they may be unbranched. So again here we can see there is a branching. Okay. So this is specialized hyphae. These hyphae which bear the conidia are called conidiophore. These are called conidiophore. These hyphae are called conidiophore. Okay. So these are specialized hyphae. At the terminal of this, there is development of this single celled spores. These spores which are found at the terminal of these hyphae, specialized hyphae, these are called conidiophore. The stalk is called conidiophore, and the structure on which these spores are produced is known as conidium. This structure we can consider as the conidium. And these spores are conidiospores. These are called conidiospores, or in other words we can say these are conidia. So this is very interesting to note here. Conidia. What kind of spores they are? Exospores. Exogenously produced. Exogenously produced. So this is very interesting point here to note. These spores are non-motile, exogenously produced and non-motile. These spores are exogenously produced and these spores are non-motile spores. This is very interesting point to note. So please remember example Penicillium and Aspergillus. The filament, the hyphae on which they develop is called conidiophore. This branch structure on which this at the tip of them these spores are present is called conidium. Instead of sporangium we use word conidium. And these terminal single celled spores are called conidia. These exogenous spores are called conidia. These conidia are separate from here and they land on the suitable surface, favorable surface, and there they germinate to give rise the new organism. Example are very important: Penicillium, Penicillium notatum. Okay, so this Penicillium is already is a member which is used to produce the antibiotics also. So another type, conidia, is more important. One more type of exogenous spores are there. These are oidea, but oidea are not more important for us. It is not there in your NCERT. But still we can have some idea about oidea. These spores are similar to conidia, but these are produced on unbranched. Of unbranched hyphae means the terminal, this is a hyphae, and from this hyphae cells directly, single cell, these cells directly come away, terminate from here, break into hypha, break into pieces, means one by one cell come away. So these can be considered as oidea. These are also exogenous spores, but these are not present on the conidiophore, or they don't have specialized structure like conidium. Okay, the filament, the hyphae, on the terminal they remove these cells, and these terminated cells, this broken cell, these small pieces behave like the spores. So these small pieces, small part of hypha behave like spores. So these are called oidea. So this word also you can remember. So this is all about the spore formation in the fungus, spore formation in algae. This is one of the very important method of asexual reproduction. In next class we will be continue with the vegetative propagation, and that will be the last topic of asexual reproduction. Then we will move to the sexual reproduction. Thank you.